Hey YouTube, Brian LCS. Thanks for stopping by the channel. And this video, well, a little bit of a story today. We're going to get into it. We're going to share my screen. We're going to kind of get into all the details. I know it was kind of a clickbaity title, but I wanted to explain the situation I ran into recently when trying to order some bags, boards, and some storage boxes. Now, I'm not here to bash the company. I've used, so the company's Comic Pro line. I've used Comic Pro line in the past, and we'll look at my orders. So I'm not here to bash them. I just want to explain the situation so that if others run into this, they can hopefully avoid this situation that I ran into, and avoid overpaying or getting caught up with some hidden fees that you may run into. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of my recent purchases. So kind of the backstory on this is that I recently made an order through Comic Pro line, and I ran into a little bit of an issue. But if you take a look, I've ordered, so it looks like, according to their website, 4 times back in 2023, twice in 2024, and then once just recently here in early July. Now, the thing that's interesting about it, this order that I placed back in June of 2024 was the same order, and there's a big about a almost $25 price increase. So I think obviously some of their products have maybe increased in prices. But I went and ordered bags, modern bags, silver boards, and comic boxes that I've ordered, like I said previously. Order went through, no issue there. Completed the order, and the total was 157. I think we actually saw it here. Yeah, we see it here. 156.06 US dollars. Now, and I thought I was done. Comic Pro line offers free shipping. If you look at their website, we'll go back. If you look at their website, anything over $100, you enjoy free shipping on orders $100 plus. So I always, when I place orders, try to hit that $100 mark to take advantage. They are a Canadian company, so taking advantage of that free shipping obviously saves me some money. And so as I clicked through and placed the order, there was no mention of any other fees. Although obviously, if you've unless you've been living under a rock, you're aware of some of the tariffs that have been put in place between the United States and other countries. And so honestly, I don't even know what the current status is of our tariffs with Canada. I don't believe there are any, but I believe there's still some in place with other countries. So anyway, I made the order. Everything was processed. I got a tracking number a day or two later saying that the items were being shipped, and no issue. And then 3 or 4 days before the order was expected to be delivered, I got an email from UPS stating that I owed them some money. And so you can see here some additional money that needed to be paid either ahead of time or COD when they deliver the order. So there's a $79.80 additional charge. And so I was a little taken off guard by this. I wasn't sure why there was these additional charges. So I reached out to Comics Pro line, and they explained that one of the items, the storage boxes, was subjective to tariffs because they actually come from Japan. They're manufactured in Japan. And so I asked what was the rate? Did they know what the rate was? And they said around 30%. So the original cost of those boxes was around $97. So 30% is roughly about $30, 29 and change. And so I was a little confused why UPS was asking me to pay $79.80. So I mentioned that to Comics Pro line. They said, well, you need to reach out to UPS. So I reached out to UPS, and this is kind of where the fun started. Reaching out to UPS, I initially called, the US number because I'm located here in the United States. And they said, well, we can't help you because this is an international order. We need to send you to the UPS International. Transfer me over there. They looked into it. They couldn't provide any additional detail. What I was really just trying to understand was, what was the $79 charge? What was the breakdown? Could you give me, an understanding of why I'm being charged this, so before I pay it? And so um, they said, well, we can't help you. UPS International couldn't help me. They said, let us transfer you over to the UPS broker who brokers, I guess, international shipping. And so I spoke to them, and they could not help me. They actually said that they believed the full charge was going to be $115. And so a lot of confusion. And then they transferred me to returns, because they said, well, if you cannot give me a breakdown of this additional cost, I don't want this shipment. I want to return it. So UPS transferred me to another person, which was returns, and they couldn't help me. They said, well, you can't return an item unless it's attempted to be delivered at least once. So once that happens, you can refuse it, and then go from there. So I spoke to 4 different people at UPS, and nobody could help me. So then I went back to Comics Proline and said, do we understand? I confirmed with UPS that there is this fee, but it's not matching up your 30% that you quoted me. And so I said, and nobody's able to give me the details. So Comics Proline said to me, well, just accept the fee, pay the fee, and then we'll try to work on a credit after the fact. Once you get an invoice from UPS, send it to us and we'll see what we can do. Now, UPS told me that they wouldn't send me a copy of the invoice until the items were delivered. And so I really was uncomfortable accepting this delivery and paying this fee without really understanding what the fee was for, or what products in the order were being charged this. And the numbers, like I said, didn't add up. The 30% fee. And so Comics Proline did mention to me that they believe the tariff fee was 55% on the storage boxes. So that would really drive that price of just the storage boxes. If I'm paying 90 something dollars for the boxes, it'd be additional, $45. Still didn't add up to the $79 that UPS was asking for. So again, I let Comics Proline know that, look, unless I get these details, I'm going to have to refuse the order, because I really want to break down and understand what I'm paying for. And so they were unable to provide it. Again, they just said, please accept the order, pay for the fees, and then we'll see what we can do after the fact. So I wasn't comfortable with that, because since nobody could give me good information, I decided to refuse the order. An interesting thing happened after I did that. So this was all in early July. I actually reached out to Comics Proline the first time on July 4th, because they're a Canadian company. They were open, so I was able to speak to them then. And then we traded emails back and forth. The original order was supposed to be delivered on the 8th of July, and that's when I refused the order. But then on the 10th of July, I see an email from Comics Proline, and they mentioned that they have pulled any of the items from their online store that was impacted by tariffs, to avoid any confusion. And so this is on July 10th, a couple days after I've contacted them. So I'm not sure if my issue that I ran into prompted this email, but this email was sent out to all of their customers or anybody on their mailing list. And like I said, it basically states that they have pulled the items from their online store for the time being, to avoid any confusion. And then they were actually offering a 10% discount for anybody willing to order over the next couple of days. You use a code to help, kind of smooth over any of the confusion. And so I don't know, like I said, just maybe it's coincidence on the timing of it that my issue and my escalation of the issue to them caused them to send this email. I'm not sure if others were running into the issue. But it's interesting. If we go back to Comics Proline's website, and if I click on, I'm on United States, you can select your different countries here. But if I look at the comic boxes and go the plastic boxes, I was ordering the plastic boxes. I've used them before. You can see that they are not available for me to purchase. Now, if I switch my country, We'll go Argentina. You can see the boxes are now available. And then because, I'm assuming there's no tariffs between Canada and what did I select? Argentina. So, but like I said, if we go back to United States, we'll see it. So the mainland, there's no products available. So it shows you that they pulled it, which, I think is good customer service on their part, to avoid any further issues with potential customers. So as of this point, this issue is unresolved. I actually had to escalate the issue to my bank and dispute the charge. And what was interesting was in one of the last communications to me, Comics Proline said, we're going to have to enforce our terms of service. And it's interesting. I did not see these terms of service when I ordered, and I can share them with you. And this is on their website. But when you place the order, you kind of just click on agree, and you don't actually see the terms and services. And there's this new section, I believe, that was added, because if you look, there's sections 18, 19, all of the sections above are in different font. Is a little bit, the tariff policy is bigger. So I'm assuming obviously this has been added recently. And it says that basically, the buyer of goods is responsible for all fees. There's no liability assumed by Comics Proline, that the customer must do their due diligence. And so I understand that I clicked on that and accepted those terms, but I really wasn't aware those were the terms. And maybe that's my fault for not reading. But again, not having the details of what the cost is really is my main issue. And I don't want to pay for something that I don't know. I don't want to pay above what I agreed to pay. And so that's kind of my story here. And I wanted to mention it so that if anybody, because I'm sure, right, it's a necessary evil. Buying supplies, bags, boards, storage boxes is a necessary evil. And I know there are a number of people in the community that use Comic Proline. I think there's actually somebody else in the community mentioned it, and that's how I became aware of them and started ordering from them. Now, this does not mean that I won't order from them again. I will certainly buy bags and boards and buy items that are not subjective to the tariffs to avoid any of this confusion. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Like I said, wanted put this out there so that hopefully others could avoid this situation. And obviously, Comics Proline has been proactive, and they took those items off their website if you live in the United States, so you don't have to worry about running into that issue. But I'm sure at some point they're going to add them back. So wanted to make sure that people were aware, and then really ask your opinion. What have you ever run into this type of situation recently with the new tariffs that have been put in place with the president here in the United States? And I don't want to be political. It's not the intent of this video. I don't really want to comment on that. I really just want to talk about the transaction here, and this really not knowing what the total cost was or what was being what the tariffs were for in the order, and just a breakdown of the amount so I could see it in black and white before paying for it, and just making me feel comfortable about paying the extra fees. So that's what I got. I like I said. But what do you think? Was I wrong to refuse the order? Should the total of the order be presented to me prior to me placing the order, or at least an estimate? I just feel like I was kind of blindsided with it, and that just didn't have enough information to be able to move forward with the transaction. And so that's why I canceled it. But like I said, I would love to hear the community's thought. That's what I got for you. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Like I said, let's keep it non-political. I don't want to get into the state of things. That's probably a whole nother topic. And that's not really what we do here on the channel. We try to stay above those things, just have fun. And so, but again, love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, what you think of the situation. Have you run into this type of situation? Yeah, so that's what I got for you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next video.